Hello there, it's Michael here at the Village Optician, and today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your vitreous. Okay, now the vitreous is the jelly-like fluid that fills the body of your eyeball. Okay, so the eye is filled with this jelly sort of substance called the vitreous gel. And the reason I want to talk to you about that because there's a few things that the vitreous is going to do which can cause a little bit of bother throughout our lives. So the reason I'm talking about this today is actually I had a patient this morning and we did some OCT scans and we had a beautiful example of a posterior vitreous detachment, which I will explain in a minute. So first of all, the vitreous. Yeah, you've got this jelly fluid inside your eyeball, and of course the jelly fluid is transparent. It needs to be so light can get through to the back of the eye and we can see. So first thing about the vitreous, it's going to keep shrinking. Bits of it are going to shrink. It's going to form these little clumps, these little strands, little spider webby type things as time goes by. Now that's going to be worse in very short-sighted people, but it is going to affect everyone. Now what you're making when you have these little shrinking episodes and you make little clumps and strands, these little lumps and strands have become opaque. So they're going to float about inside your eyeball. Now what that is a floater. Okay, very technical and scientific term, that, a floater. Why? Because it floats about. And you'll see it floating about in your vision. Okay, now when you make a new one, it can be a bit disconcerting sometimes, because sometimes you think there's a fly or something just there, but it's actually not going away, it's actually in your eyeball. And the reason you see that, what you're seeing is the shadow that it's casting onto the back of your eye. Okay, so you've got this little kind of like clump now, or little strand that's become opaque, and that's just floating about inside your eyeball. When light comes in through your eye and sort of hits that, it's going to cast a bigger shadow onto the back of your eye. Think of it like an old-fashioned cinema that has a real projector, and if someone stands up in front of the projector, it's going to project a huge shadow of a person onto the screen in front. And it's the same thing that's happening inside your eye. As the light passes through, hits the floater, casts a shadow, and what you're seeing is the shadow of that moving about inside your eyeball. Okay, a couple of things to mention if you are making new floaters. If you get flashing lights when you make a new floater or new floaters, you must seek medical advice. Okay, whether it's an optometrist or an eye hospital, something like that, that's the best sort of advice to get. The reason I mention that is sometimes making new floaters with flashing lights can be a sign of a retinal tear, and I'm going to explain why. So the vitreous, the gel, you think of it as sitting in a bag. Okay, so the vitreous is in a bag, and that bag is attached to the back of your eye. Okay, there's bits of that bag. So there's the back of the eye, the retina. It's going to be attached to the retina. Okay, at different points, and if it shrinks near the back of your eye where it's attached, it's going to pull on the back of your eye. Okay, so it's going to kind of pull that bag off the back of your eye, and that is going to happen to everyone at some point. Some people will notice it happening, other people won't. Okay, now what you might get when that traction is taking place, that pulling of the shrinking of the sort of the vitreous with that bag pulling off the back of the eye, sometimes people will get flashing lights. Okay, now you can get flashing lights as that just sort of pulls away off your retina, but you can also get flashing lights if it's torn the retina. Okay, and that's why we need you to get checked out. That's why you need to ideally have an Optomap scan or something like that to have a good look around inside there and just see if anything has torn, because if it has, you'll need that sealing up, usually just with laser, to seal it so it doesn't kind of detach your retina. Okay, now then, every eye is going to pull, the vitreous bag is going to kind of pull away at some point, and the vast majority of those are going to cause absolutely no problem whatsoever. The example we had this morning, we did as I say, a really nice OCT scan. That's an optical coherence tomography scan, which kind of looks it's a bit like it looks like an ultrasound. It's not ultrasound, but it looks a bit like an ultrasound. You get these kind of black and white images, sort of black with little, you can see the different layers of the retina in the sort of grayscale kind of thing. It's a fantastic piece of equipment and machine. We can learn so much from an eye because we can see the nerves when we do that. So that's a whole nother thing to talk about another time. So the scan we did this morning, it was beautiful because we had the retina and the macular area that does the detail vision, and above it we had the sort of vitreous bag. Above that you could see where it had beautifully, cleanly come away. And I say cleanly because it just had come away beautifully. The gentleman in question had not noticed a thing about it, and it was lovely to see. And I say that, which sounds a weird thing for me to say, but there's been a few cases that I've personally seen in the last sort of 18 months, quite a few cases actually, where the adhesion of the bag of the vitreous onto the back of the eye, the macula, has been so strong it has pulled the macula up. Now the macula, as I say, is the bit that does your fine detail vision, so we do not want to damage the macula at all. But one of the cases that I saw, it had been pulling away, and it had actually it had actually pulled a hole in the retina because it just hadn't let go of the retina, and we want it to come off, we want it to come away, not pull the retina with it. So it had pulled this hole in the macula which needed surgery to repair. What we're talking about here, that's a rare case. That's not going to happen to everyone. You should see some of my scans. I've got some really nice bits where it's come away quite nicely, and still other bits where it's still attached, So, as I say, we want it to come away. Now, that's what we call a posterior vitreous detachment, a PVD for short. Okay, and it's incredibly common. Some people will get flashing lights. And if you do get flashing lights and that's happening, you must get that checked out, okay? So some people will get flashing lights when it's happening. Most people won't, actually. The majority of people won't. So that's, as I say, a little chat about your vitreous. So your vitreous is going to kind of bother you through your life by creating these little lumps and clumps and strands. And like me talking about floaters right now, I can just see loads of my floaters because it's in my mind. I'm talking about it. If I do that, oh, there we go. I've got a nice little swirl of floaters moving across. Anyway, that's now going to annoy me for the next couple of hours because I'm aware of them again. But the good thing about when you do make new floaters, your brain gets a bit of a shock because there's something new to see. But as time goes by, your brain gets used to it and you will stop seeing them, which is amazing, really. Your brain kind of works it out. It filters things and sort of says, well, that's all right. We don't need to see that. So it kind of filters it out and you stop seeing them so much, okay? And again, a floater you'll only see when it's bright. And if you're looking at a white wall or a white page, or if it's sunny, you should never see a floater in the dark. Because again, you're seeing the shadow it casts. You need light coming through or contrast to see the shadow. Okay, so that's a little bit about your vitreous. As I say, so your vitreous is going to detach at some point. It's going to pull away, it's going to shrink, it's going to create floaters, and it's going to become a bit annoying for people sometimes. But mostly harmless, okay? But like I say, any symptoms of flashing lights, sudden increases in floaters, flashing lights in your eye, you must seek medical attention straight away, just in case there's a tear. If possible, go somewhere and get an Optimap scan. If you can't do that, if there's an eye hospital nearby, give them a ring, talk through your symptoms, and they will arrange to get you seen. Okay. Anyway, hope that helps some people understand what's going on in your eyes, and I shall no doubt speak to you soon. Bye.